Celeste is a game that has received no shortage of praise, and, well, for good reason. The platforming is excellently crafted, the music is utterly amazing, and it contains one of the most moving stories in video games that I have played in a while. It is an impeccable game, and has honestly, in the 30 plus hours I have spent with the game, occupied a very precious place in my heart. As tempting as it is to spend this whole video gushing about the fine-tuned and challenging platforming, or the enchanting soundtrack filled with absolute bangers and atmospheric masterpieces, I'll have to put all those aside for now because that's not what I want to focus on. No, after all, this is Camille's Harem, a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. And as such, I want to focus in on the writing and the story. And let me tell you why the story of Celeste captured me, causing me to feel deep empathy within its first 60 seconds. Before I get too much into this review, I want to stress the fact that this video is going to go deep into the realm of spoilers. If you have considered playing Celeste at any point, I would highly recommend picking up the game at your earliest convenience. This is a game that everyone should experience, even if it means turning on assist mode. This is not a game you're gonna want to miss out on, period. Now, if you have already played the game or don't mind a whole lot of spoilers, then let's get started. In order to understand what about the story of Celeste that has captured so many people, we should first understand the story of the game itself. Like with any good story, it all starts with a strong foundation, the characters, and what wonderful characters they are. The protagonist of our story is Madeline, or whatever you decide to name her, and as the Avatar-esque character, we experience the game through her eyes. From the first moments of the game, we are shown that Madeline suffers from anxiety, and that becomes a central point in the game. In a conversation, Madeline reveals that she feels as though she needs to accomplish something. That is how she found herself at the foot of Celeste Mountain. She quickly meets with Theo, who calls Madeline odd for wanting to climb this treacherous mountain solely based on such a vague sense of determination. But Madeline is nothing if not stubborn. As the story progresses, we get ample opportunity to see her stubbornness grow into something else entirely. Later, the old lady comments saying that it is as though Madeline is angry at herself. She would reach the summit just to spite herself. By the end of the game, we watch that stubbornness and spite turn into determination and drive. In Matt Thorson's own words, he says, "She is running away from her personal problems by climbing this mountain. But by climbing the mountain, she ends up having to confront them. She is not just climbing the mountain because she feels like it or because she needs to. She's climbing this mountain to prove to herself that she can." Well, herself has a thing or two to say about that. The next character that plays a huge role is introduced in Chapter 2. I've heard people call her Madeline. And as creative and catchy as that is, I think it's a bit of a misleading title. For simplicity's sake, I will refer to her as Poi, or P-O-I, short for part of you. You obviously meaning Madeline. The reason I feel like Madeline is not an apt name is really a simple reason. That name gives the connotation that Poi is an evil or in some way bad version of Madeline, which is simply not true. She is not inherently bad or evil. True, Madeline sees Poi as a physical amalgamation of the traits that she sees as being her faults. She is the pragmatic part, or perhaps, on the other side, the pessimistic part. This does not make her evil, though. Her whole life, Madeline has been trying to leave her faults behind. She has kept them bottled up inside her, as to not burden others. Faults are what makes us all human, and leaving them behind, or bottled up, is like leaving behind your own humanity. Which, if anyone is familiar with the Bakemonogatari series, knows that that is a terrible idea. Yes, I'm looking at you, Hanakawa. Which, for those who are unfamiliar, the character I'm referring to, Hanakawa, is trying too hard to be perfect, and in turn, she becomes something that can only be described as inhuman. This causes her pent-up emotions to start lashing out by creating monsters. Sound familiar? Regardless, that's a discussion better left for a future video. The scariest monsters are the ones that lurk within our own souls. Sure, Poi is scary, but not because she is evil, but because that is how Madeline sees that part of her. It's how she has always seen her. But can you really call Poi evil? She's a defense mechanism. All she wants is to keep Madeline safe. Poi lashes out at others because Madeline won't. Is it so wrong for Madeline to rely on Poi to keep herself safe? No, because Poi is part of her. Myself being someone who fights off anxiety, I can understand Poi's role completely. Poi is simply a byproduct of someone whose brain fixates on the stupidest things that happened like forever ago, staying up all night trying to think of other ways they could have handled it, eventually leading into having panic attacks, and finally trying to place the blame as to why you couldn't just keep it together despite the fact that you should be over them and they don't matter. Theo is an interesting, lovable character with great development. At first, he fills the cliché of a comedic relief character, which is actually a surefire way to make a character immediately likable. FYI. But before long, you start to love his character thanks to other reasons besides comedy. Most conversations with Theo revolve around one simple idea: connecting with Madeline, whether that is by getting her to open up to him with goofy one-liners, or getting her to calm down by breathing and thinking about a feather. Theo wants to understand Madeline so that he can help her. His sister also deals with depression, so he wants to know how he can help both his sister and Madeline. Theo tells us about his sister, Alex, stating that Madeline reminds him a lot of her. They are both stubborn and both deal with depression. You both live so deep inside your own heads. He says, Alex has this amazing internal compass. It's obvious that she will get where she needs to be. I can see that in you too. But then he ends the line with something that I find pretty interesting. I wish I could say the same thing about me. Theo lacks self-confidence. His chipper attitude is just his way of hiding it. The temple creates projections from within the character's soul. We not only see the monsters that Madeline has created, but also the numerous eyes that litter the structure created by Theo. When confronted by all these eyes looking to him, he closes himself off, literally putting up a wall to protect himself by encasing himself in crystal. I wish I could have helped. I was pretty useless stuck in that thing. But of course, like with most people who lack self-confidence, it's not grounded in reality. Actually, you helped a lot. Originally, I wanted to go in depth and talk about the symbolism of climbing this mountain, the repetition of finding a room to be impossible, but going forward regardless, failing over and over again until you finally triumph, only to find the next room even more challenging, and what it equates to within depression. Or about how the best way to overcome your own self is by accepting yourself. But to be honest, I feel like there are plenty of videos out there that do a well enough job at picking all of that apart. Besides, that's not what the original intent of this video was in the first place. The title of this video is Celeste and Empathetic Storytelling, and so I think it's about time I got around to addressing that. So what exactly do I mean when I say empathetic storytelling? To start, let me pose this question. What does it mean to connect with a character? Does it mean that you understand exactly what this character is going through because you have been through the exact same situation? Does it mean that you know what it's like to be them? No, of course not. The life you live and the life the characters live are completely different. Unless you are writing an autobiography, it's impossible for you to have been put in the same situations as the character. So then, what does it mean? In episode 11.45 of Writing Excuses, Desiree Birch says something that I find perfectly answers this question. She says, and I quote, "My work is intentionally personal. I think that the more specific a work gets, the more broadly it relates to other people. The more you want to reach people, the more sort of deeper you have to dig, and the more specific you have to be. Because people will go, okay, that specific thing didn't happen to me, but something that feels and looks and tastes so similar did." This is how you connect with a character. It's not by trying to appeal to the lives of your audience, but it's by digging deep into the lives of your characters. If your characters are well written, people will empathize with them, not because they know what it's like, but because they can remember a time that they have felt similar. This idea of empathetic storytelling is what Celeste nails so perfectly. Madeline describes dealing with depression as if she's at the bottom of an ocean. She can't see in any direction, it's claustrophobic, yet she feels exposed. Now, I wouldn't use those exact same words to describe what it feels like for me, but I can certainly empathize with that statement. Although I have never had a part of me split out and go on a rampage, it is still very much relevant to me because I can see how these events affect her through the course of the game. Much like a real person, a character is a collection of all of their past experiences and their quirks, and those experiences affect the decisions that are made moving forward. This is why characters behave the way they do, and when they contradict these pre-established behaviors, it is unnatural and jarring. If you want to make the most out of empathetic storytelling, you need to keep both of these things in mind. Number one, the idea of deep personal struggles, and number two, the character's decisions. Let's take a look at how Celeste handles this. As established before, Madeline has spent her whole life trying to leave Poi behind, to cut her out of her life. Poi, in turn, gets increasingly agitated by how Madeline keeps ignoring her, eventually leading to what you are led to believe, the climactic confrontation where Madeline tells her that it is time for them to split for good, to set each other free. Then, the plot takes a twist. Poi is going absolutely nowhere. Madeline is not going to get rid of her that easily. This then leads to Madeline realizing that she can't leave Poi, a part of her, behind. She needs to accept herself completely in order to climb this mountain. And in the true climax of Madeline and Poi's character arc, a final battle between them ensues where their roles have been switched. Madeline is chasing Poi down, trying to get Poi to work with her rather than against her, and Poi wants nothing to do with her. Boiling it down to a simple paragraph doesn't hold the same emotional weight, but while playing the game, you are invested into these characters. You feel for Madeline when she is having an emotional breakdown after being dragged to the bottom of a mountain. You rejoice with Madeline when she accepts that part of her that she has been suppressing her whole life. And finally, it touches your heart when Madeline and that part of her share an intimate moment at the summit where they realized that they could do anything when they worked together. This is the power of empathetic storytelling. Hey guys, this is Nathan. Just wanted to hop in here at the end, and thank you so much for making it through my video. I worked really hard on this, probably harder than I honestly should have, because I have a lot of other projects that need to be completed. But if you liked it, I poured my heart and soul into this, so please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about it. Tell us what you think about Celeste, if you've had a chance to play it. Other than that, do check us out at all sorts of social medias. We're on all the things, all the places. Twitter, Reddit, Tumblr, and we're also, you can find our podcast, which is going to be on iTunes or Google Play, and do check us out where you can get all sorts of writing advice as well as terrible fanfics that we read and then kind of break down later. So make sure to check this out. If you are a writer, it's a great tool, and we want you to join in on our discussions as well. So thank you so much, and as always, bye-bye. Oh, man, now I need a juice. Vincent! He's not here. He's not here right now. Vince? What did I do? Will you get me a cup of water? Sure. Thanks, friendo.
Oh, you just needed water?
Yeah, I just wanted some water. I was too lazy to get up and get it. Thanks, Vince.
He was cleared the other room, though.
How
did you know he
I was in my bedroom.
Oh, did you hear me?
No, I talked to him going, what did you do? I didn't do anything.
Well, thanks.